What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more music from Death Note, but I should say from a different soundtrack than the handful of Death Note tunes I've already reacted to. Allow me to explain, and for those who don't know, Death Note is a franchise that began as a manga in 2006, seen here, though this is of course the English translation of the manga, which I think came out slightly later than the original Japanese manga. But yes, it's by one artist and one writer, Sugumi Oba, and then Takeshi Obata. And I think Sugumi Oba, is the writer of the story, and then Takeshi Obata is the artist. Nevertheless, the pseudonym of the writer is indeed a fake name, and I think by now it's more or less consensus who it was based on some other things that he wrote. But for a long time there was a mystery, like who actually wrote the story of Death Note. But yes, it was originally by one writer and one artist. I do have the entire 12-book set of manga, and I will say I saw the 2006 anime, from which the tunes I've already reacted to from Death Note come from, and that came in two box sets, Volume 1 and Volume 2. I will say that this is the North American version, meaning there are original voice artists in the Japanese rendering of the anime, but when they released it in North America, a Canadian studio called Ocean took over the dubbing and, sort of rewrote some of the lines to, make a bit more sense in like North American society and culture. In any case, the point is the DVDs of the anime have both the original Japanese and the translated or dubbed English. I've been going through a watch-along of the anime on my Patreon, and I'm almost finished. I'm down to the last 4 episodes, and I've been watching it in the English dub because I think compared to some other animes, the dub in English is actually quite good. Sometimes it's the case that the original Japanese voice actors are amazing, and this is typically true of anime from many years back when production and distribution studios in the West didn't put as much effort in. It's like, oh, they're just kind of like weird Japanese cartoons. And then in more recent decades, I think anime has gained more credibility over here, and as such, when it is dubbed and distributed, they tend to, hire legit actors and actresses to do the voices. In any case, the point is, I think the English dub of the anime of Death Note is quite good, so I've been watching it in the English dub. And as I said, I have almost finished my watch-along of the anime, and I'll put a link to the watch-along collection on my Patreon. But the point is, I've reacted to a few tracks from one of the 2 soundtracks that comes from the anime. Now, after the anime came out, they came out with some live-action movies. I think there were 2 of them. And then years later, like I think 2017, 2018, they did a couple more theatrical movies. So the live-action movies is kind of its own offshoot. But in 2015, they made a live-action television series, a live-action J-drama, and I happen to get that in my J-drama collection, and I think it's absolutely fantastic. It's, in terms of overall runtime, slightly shorter than the anime, which is 37 episodes at 23 minutes long. This is 10 episodes of 45 minutes in length, so again, it's a little bit shorter, but still, longer than the first couple the first couple live-action movies. Anyway, the point is, I think the live-action show from 2015 is absolutely fantastic, and it makes some slightly different narrative choices. The overall arc of the stories are more or less the same, but there's some different turns and twists, and I think that's also, of course, the case in the live-action movie. So it's like a franchise that became more than just the original story in manga and anime, which is to say the anime is nearly identical to the manga. The only slight differences are in the amount of time they spend on some things, but it's basically identical. Whereas the live-action movies and the 2015 live-action show definitely take some different narrative choices along the way. Anyway, the point is, many years after I got the soundtrack for the anime, one of the 2 soundtracks, I got the soundtrack for the 2015 live-action show. And it's a totally different soundtrack. Now, in its stylings, it has a lot of similarity to the classic soundtrack from the anime, but it is different. It's composed by a different person, and it's it has its own tunes. Now, the irony of that is, in the menu screen on the 2015 live action show DVD, they play one of the tracks from the anime soundtrack. I think it's the L theme B, which I did react to already. So, yeah, it's clearly lots of tie-ins, and it's all part of the same intellectual franchise. But again, this soundtrack that we're going to hear is from 2015 and the live action show. And the composer, make sure I have this right, it's Takayuki Hattori. And the first track we're going to listen to is, given the translation into English, the Death Note Grand Theme. It's 11 minutes long, and this intro's already 2 to 3 minutes, so let's just get started. This is, by Takayuki Hattori, the Death Note Grand Theme, the first track on the 2015 soundtrack for the live-action J-drama of Death Note, again, from 2015. So yes, it's like almost like a concerto or a multi-section overture. It's the longest track in the soundtrack by far. Maybe that's not surprising. Most of the other tunes are, like 2, 3, 4 minutes. This one is over 11, and I think it incorporates some motifs that are found in some other tracks. There's 25 tracks on here, so it's definitely a full CD. And yes, some of the scale and scope of the show is suggested. Now, if you know the anime or the manga or both, then you won't be surprised. These are matters of life and death and of controlling those forces and the entire world, indeed, not just the human world, but other dimensions are imperiled or affected by the events surrounding a particular notebook in which someone can write a person's name while thinking of their face and that person dies. And having that power, wielding that level of control over life and death, is a very complicated matter, as is borne out by the story, no matter which rendering or iteration you're talking about. So, again, I'm very much looking forward to finishing my watch along of the anime, and I'll certainly do some more audio track reactions from that soundtrack. And again, there are originally 2 soundtracks. I think I only have one of the 2 on my computer. So, I have about half of the original music from the anime at my disposal. And I don't have currently any of the live action movies, but I do want to get them because, like, the first one in particular, like, what it does at the end is, like, it's an amazing narrative choice. And although I love all the different renderings story-wise, I think that there's a particularly clever bit at the end of the first the first live action movie. But I absolutely love what they do with the live action J-drama from 2015. And there's a couple narrative choices in this that I think are like the best way you can do those parts of the story, even superior to the manga and the anime. So, yeah, I think there's amazing things about all the different versions. And whenever I finish the anime, I'm going to start a different anime watch-along for Trigun. Anyone who knows that may be interested. But at some point, I absolutely am going to do a watch-along for the 2015 live-action show. And I think anyone who's seen the anime, either with me in my watch-along or just, going back historically, but has not seen the live-action show from 2015 will be greatly interested because it's just as good, just a little bit different. So, looking forward to talking about it independently and in comparison to the anime story. So, in any case, it's a long video, I know, but I hope you enjoy the Death Note grand theme. Shout out to Takayuki Hattori. I'm looking forward to talking about more of this soundtrack, which I don't really know at all. When I first got this, I gave it a quick listen. I think I even skipped through some of the tracks just quickly, just getting a sense of what they were. So most of them, I don't even know if I've heard all the way through or at all, so it'll be interesting for me as well. Though obviously I've heard most of the music from the show. I will say, there is one track, I looked this up on the Death Note wiki, there's one track used in the 2015 live-action show that's not included on the soundtrack, so that's often the case. Like, I did a reaction to a tune from the Okitagami Kyoko's Memorandum soundtrack in the same batch, and like the end credit theme song is not on the soundtrack, nor is the menu for the DVD box set. There's a different version of that end credit song that's in the menus for the DVD. That's not in the soundtrack either. So it does seem like there's often 1 or 2 tracks that are left off of soundtracks when it comes to J-drama. Nevertheless, we'll go through the CD. Eventually, we'll do a watch-along for the show. And as I said, I'm going to be finishing the watch-along for the anime soon. So I'll put in the link in the description for that. Let me know what you think, and I will see you next time. Peace.